Hey everyone, Locked Up here, doing a deck tech on bug control this time. I don't know why I'm wearing my headset right now, but it's real comfortable. Played this deck last couple of weeks. I did pretty decently with it. Went X and 1 pretty much every single time. Unfortunately, I never made like top 3 to get more than one pack because my breakers were bad and stuff, but that happens at small FNMs. You can get real bad breakers real easily. But overall, I enjoy the deck, so here you go. Enjoy.
Alright, so the mana base is pretty simple. We've got Shocklands, 4 Water Grave, 4 Overgrown 2, and only 3 Breeding Pool, because black's really important to get early in this deck, and so is blue. But we can take a cut on a Breeding Pool for our basics, and also for our 2 Nephalia Drown Yards, which are pretty much our main win condition in this deck, actually. I'll probably win more games with Nephalia Drown Yard than with attacking with Aetherling or anything like that. 4 Drone Catacomb, 2 Woodland Cemetery, and 2 Hinterland Harbor. As I said before, blue and black are the most important, so that's why I'm running 4 Catacombs and only 2 of the other ones. I always like to run basics in my decks, in case someone's packing Geoscore for some reason. So, as before, black's really important to get early for some of the spells, so 2 Swamp, 1 Forest, and 1 Island. Yeah, the mana base is simple, and it's really easy to use. Alright, so here are the Planeswalkers that I'm running. Running 4. I could see running 5 as maybe a 3rd Jace, or perhaps Vraska the Unseen even, but I am happy with these 4. Liliana the Veil, one of my favorite Planeswalkers ever. She does a lot of stuff. She lets you discard, like, Think Twice and stuff like that. Allows you to feel your Snapcasters. Messes with the opponent. Obviously, she's real good against hexproof decks. Playing against someone playing a Witchstalker, and I was like, Liliana the Veil, I just don't even care about Witchstalker. Even though, in a vacuum, it would be really good against this deck, but it's just not. Jace does a lot. You know, he stops any sort of lingering soul shenanigans. Just don't care about those. Not so good against Ban Hexproof, but luckily there's not a lot of that in my meta, so it doesn't really bother me. It's really good against control mirrors, because you just basically take it up for a while, as long as they're not trying to bury you in card advantage, and then you ultimate them, and you take their win condition and one of your Aetherlings, and then they die very quickly. But that is the Planeswalkers. I could see a Vraska in place of maybe the 2nd Aetherling, but other than that, I'm real happy with the Planeswalker suite. So our creature suite is obviously small since it's a control deck, and it's not one of those Saruni tap-out style control decks where you just slay gigantic dudes. But, Aetherling, it's a really good creature. I'm thinking of cutting it down to 1 though, because I draw both of them way too often, but that could just be due to a small sample size of games for me. So I'm going to hold off on that. 4th Ragtusk, you need quite a bit of life gain in this deck to keep you alive. So Thragtusk provides that. He also provides a good amount of blockers too. Snapcaster Mage, of course, you play him, he does awesome things. He gets you more Barter and Bloods, more Gaze of Granites, all that good stuff. He's just incredible value. He's 3 extra copies of any spell that you need in your graveyard, so you can draw him at pretty much any point in the time in the game, and he will be really good. So that's the creature suite, and as I said before in the lands, Aetherling's not really the main win condition of the deck, it's more Drown Yard based, even though I'm only running 2. But Aetherling is probably the best card in this deck to kill Planeswalkers, because you make them unblockable and pump them up to 8, and their Planeswalker dies. Nothing can really survive an Aetherling, so he's pretty good where he is, but still having 2 might be 1 too many, but I'll see about that later. These are my 3 Lonely Sorceries because I want this deck to be played at instant speed as much as possible. but these are 3 high-quality sorceries, so I don't feel too bad about running them. Border and Blood is really strong right now, it seems to me, with against any deck that isn't playing Lingering Souls, because it kills 2 creatures. You don't really have too many creatures out very often, so it basically is just a straight-up double edict on your opponent. Sometimes you have to sacrifice 1 or 2 of your creatures, but it's fairly rare, and it's not much of a problem, and it's an excellent card to Snapcaster Mage to give flashback to, because that's not something they ever expect. They're like, okay, 1 Border and Blood, that's fine. And then you cast a second one, and they don't know what to do anymore. Gaze of Granite is basically the sweeper of this deck. It's really good. It's of course real excellent against token strategies, against Hunt Master of the Fells and stuff like that. You can pump it with as much mana as you have if you need to. I've killed whatever the new mythic enchantment for Magic 2014 is. I've killed that with it, which was kind of awkward, but that is a really good card if they can get it rolling. But these 3 sorceries, I can't see myself bringing up to 4 sorceries. Gaze of Granite has really diminishing returns, so I'd never want more than 1 in my main deck. There are situations where you want a second one, and in that case I can board 1 in, but main deck, I don't want a second one. And I think going higher than 2 Border and Bloods is getting way greedy for the main deck, and as much as I like greed, 3 is probably just too many. So here's the main core of the deck, the Instants. Only 3 Counterspells, 1 Dissipate, and 2 Essence Scatter. Essence Scatter is real good right now because no one's playing not Lingering Souls, Cavern of Souls anymore, so that's why I'm running 2 of them. They've been real excellent, especially against Jund, because they never expect them, and it's an excellent blowout because they Farseek, and then you've got 2 mana up, and then you Essence Scatter their Hunt Master or whatever, and they just get blown out sometimes. Dissipate, good against pretty much everything, is an all-around card. It's not something I cut too often because just having 1 can be excellent, but it's a card that you can easily cut for the sideboard. We've got 5 draw spells in the deck, 3 Think Twice and 2 Opportunity. Opportunity is absolutely insane, and I'm so glad they reprinted it in M14, so that a deck without white can have a good draw spell. Think Twice, of course, it's excellent. Someone informs you wanted to run Divination over it, which you don't want to do that. Sure, Divination costs 2 less mana overall, but also, since it's a sorcery, it will always take up your turn for at least the first 5 turns of the game, and by the time you can cast it without it taking up your turn, it's probably just better to hold up the mana and play an Opportunity at the end of your opponent's turn. Most of the core of this deck is removal spells, which control decks need. There's not a lot of mass removal, but there are high quality removal spells. Like Doomblade pretty much kills everything. I mean, it's bad against... It's not so good against the Jund decks, but you can use it to kill a Hunt Master of the Fells or Thundermaw Hellkite, and let your card let things like Tribute to Hunger, the away side of that, to just take out their Olivias, which Olivia's not very good against you anyway, but I mean eventually you'll die to a 3/3 flyer if you've got nothing else. The Border and Bloods can also take care of them, but I digress. Far and Away has been real excellent. Unfortunately, it can't deal with both sides of Thragtusk, which kind of sucks, unless you want to bounce the Thragtusk with the Far, that's pretty loose, but I mean, I guess if you have like Essence Scatter in your hand or Dissipate and you need to counter it, go right ahead if that's the line that you need to take. Putrefy, I'm glad its card is back. I miss Putrefy. Putrefy, it kills anything. It doesn't care what it is. It'll kill it as long as it doesn't have hexproof. and it can't be regenerated, which is relevant for nothing I can think of. I guess Lotleth Troll, if anyone plays that, which no one does, so it's not. I guess Varels, maybe, perhaps. I guess it's meta depending on whether or not people play Lotleth Troll and Varels, which aren't very popular in my meta, so the non-regeneration clause isn't a thing. Like, it's never been a thing. And 2, Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay it's really good against some decks, but really bad against others. It's a card that you board out a lot, along with Tribute to Hunger is a card that you board out a lot as well. Because against like control decks, it just doesn't do very much, especially Abrupt Decay, unless they're real heavy on like Detention Sphere. Then you can keep them in. But that's pretty much all I can think of that Abrupt Decay is bad against. That, and it's not so good against Jund. Basically all that goes against Jund would be if they're playing Rakdos Key Runes, which most lists don't anymore, or if they're tokens left over from Huntmaster or Thragtusk, which isn't really worth it to play a slot. Next we'll move on to the sideboard. Alright, so my sideboard's kind of weird and interesting. First card, Deathrite Shaman. It's an excellent card. I bring it in against mostly control decks, especially decks like Blue, White, Red, because they need to take out their Pillar of Flames and stuff like that, and it's really good against their Snapcasters. Pretty much any deck that runs removal that's going to take it out, like mostly red-based removal, they're going to have to take out because it's really bad against this deck. So Deathrite Shaman's usually pretty good against them. It's good against anything that uses Graveyard strategy. So it's good against a large majority of the field. The only deck I don't really like to bring it in against would be Jund, because they usually end up keeping in like bonfires just to like burn you out late in the game when they have a ton of mana. 2 Dispel, obviously for the flash decks and the control decks. Nothing else really plays instants, so can't really use it on anything else, but they're excellent to counter Sphinx's Revelations and stuff like that with. 1 Jace Memory Adept for the control mirror, so that you can mill them out quicker. I only like having 1 because you do have Drown Yard, so you can just get them with that a little while. So a lot of sideboards play 2, but I don't think they're necessary. Reap Intellect's an excellent card for me. It's done crazy things. I've cast it for 2, and I've blown up an entire like 4-card hand. I've cast it for 3, and basically took apart their entire deck and all their win cons and everything. If you can force it through, it's gonna win the game most likely if they have any cards in their hand. Duress, basically the same principle against control. Not much else you can bring it in against, because it does discard it, not exile it, so you don't want it against an Unburial Rites deck really. But that's fine, there's not really that many anymore, I don't think. Abrupt Decay, as I said before, it's good against any small creature deck really. Naya decks, red decks usually. Ratchet Bomb, good against Lingering Souls if you see any. It's good overall against any deck that plays like a ton of enchantments or anything like that, so if someone's got like a bunch of Detention Spheres or Oblivion Rings, you can bring them in. It's also good against Mana Dork decks. Encroaching Wastes, you can bring them in a Nephalia Drownyard Mirror, or you can bring them in against Jund, which is basically why I have them in here, to kill their Kessig Wolf run, which is... Kessig Wolf run's basically the control killer of their deck, in accordance with Rakdos' Return as well. Those two both are real good against control, and at least with Encroaching Wastes I can take out Kessig Wolf run. Maybe not Rakdos' Return, might be able to dissipate that, if not, to figure out something else. Notion Thief, he can be pretty good against the flash deck, since they never expect it. They never expect the Notion Thief. So they play a Sphinx's Revelation, they play around like your Dispel or something like that, or they just don't care, they're just going for it. So you play Notion Thief, and then you probably win the game. Crypt Incursion, my only loss last week was to a Reanimator deck, so I'm going to play one of these next week. I'm playing Modern this week, so I'll have a deck tech up for that as well. But this has been the bug control deck that I've been playing for the last couple of weeks, and I really enjoy playing. It's fun, it's awesome, it can be really good if you pilot it well, and I hope to see some comments about what you think of the deck. And yeah, got a couple closing thoughts. One is that I post on the MTG Salvation forums, and there are a couple advocates of playing Farseek in this deck, which I've been playing a bug control deck since Return to Ravnica came out, and Farseek, I've played Farseek so many times, and it's pretty much always been disappointing. I mean, I played it as one of, like, the golden rule cards, like, if you're playing green and control, you're playing Farseek, and it's just, I don't agree with that anymore at all. I think Farseek is really, really terrible in this deck. Reasons for that are, there's only, like, there's 2 4-drop permanents, and then Barter and Blood, that it actually accelerates you into on turn 3. If you're casting Barter and Blood on turn 3, that's a pretty bad spot to be in, and I don't think you're going to be in that spot ever. Jace on turn 3 is good, but it's not worth running Farseeks to do. It's really not. It's not Jace the Mind Sculptor, so it's not worth it. Yeah, so Farseek I took out. It's been running so much better as soon as I took that out. It's terrible in the late game. It does actual nothing. It doesn't draw a card. It's not even as good as an actual land drop usually, because it costs you mana. And then and it's a sorcery. That is another huge thing, is that it's a sorcery in a deck that doesn't ever want to tap out because of Drown Yards and Think Twice and Opportunities and Snapcaster Mages and stuff like that. So that's my thoughts on Farseek. I did have Lifebane Zombie in the sideboard. I think Lifebane Zombie could be really good in the sideboard against various decks, junk decks especially. But it hasn't really impressed me, but that's probably because I don't think it's quite that good with just being a 3-mana 3/1, and you get to take the card out of their hands, which, it's not bad, don't get me wrong, but I'd probably rather have it cost 1 mana and not be a creature. But that's my opinion. Usually decks that I want to bring him against, I can bring in Reap Intellect, and it does pretty much the same thing, except on a much stronger scale. But those are my closing thoughts. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, you can certainly leave a dislike, but please leave a comment why. Subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these videos now. My work schedule has been good now. New company took over, so it's a lot more stable, and I like it a lot more. So I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. Thanks for watching. Peace out.